Some karma's gonna get you.
Hello everybody, so glad to have all of you here. For those that are watching us, we just want to say hello, each of us. We have a little discussion group gathered today. A lot of these people have been my students and they have heard what I have taught many a time, but you can never go over what we're going to go over today too much, because it's something we have to learn to use with our thought and our feeling day by day and actually moment by moment. So I usually start by just telling a little story, and it is in my book, and this whole thing is going to be about this book that I authored called The Secret Triangle of Life, Death, and Evolution. And I begin it by telling how I was disturbed by a quote from the New Testament when Jesus said, "Be ye perfect as your Father is already perfect in heaven." And I thought, how could we be expected to be perfect? Because we're just human beings. And so I asked a couple of ministers about it, and to make a long story short, nobody had the answer for me. I decided I would read the Bible all the way through because I heard about people actually doing that. And I sat down in the evening to start to read it. I could never get any further than the second chapter without a little voice coming up within me that said, "You don't understand what you're reading." So I went back, read again, maybe 1.5 chapters. Voice came again, "You don't understand what you're reading." So I went back again, I read 2 chapters. Seemed very simple to me, very easy to understand, and then I had to quit. Went back 2 or 3 days later, did the same thing, and same thing happened again. And so I guess it took about 2 weeks of trying on different evenings. And I never got any further than the 4th or 5th chapter. And finally then one evening it said, "Go back to the beginning." And I said, well, I have gone back to the beginning. I said it out loud. And when I heard my voice saying the word beginning, it was as though something snapped and a veil dropped away from my eyes. And suddenly I realized that the word beginning was a symbol for something. And so I thought, now, where does everything begin for me? Well, it begins in my mind. I have to have an awareness of it in my mind, or it does not exist for me. And so then I thought, well, let's try that. Let's see. In the mind. And the very next word in the scripture was God. So I thought, oh, well, where is God? God is in mind. In the beginning, God. In the mind, God. And then the next word, we're reading the first line of Genesis, the first line of the Bible. The next word was created. So this God is going to create something. What do I know about creating? And I immediately thought of a seed, because I thought a seed gives its own self to become something else. And I thought, well, maybe this is a good way to think about creating something. So I just accepted that in my mind. And then what did God create? Heaven and earth. Well, then I was stumped. I thought, well, how can you get heaven in mind? I thought, well, what is in mind? Maybe one of you can tell me what is in mind. Somebody got an idea of what is in mind? Hint, hint.
Thoughts?
No.
Pure conscious?
No. Don't you have an idea of what is in mind?
Idea.
Ideas. And then later we have thoughts about ideas. But I thought, well, now since this is all happening in mind, it has to be an idea. Heaven has to be an idea. So heaven, of course, is a state of perfection and wholeness and the ideal. And so I just decided that this was an idea of life, because a seed has in it life. So heaven to me was going to be life, an idea of life, and an idea of earth. Well, that was a little bit easier, because when I think about earth, I'm not going to think about earth now as a globe in this solar system. I'm going to think about earth as something you plant a seed in. So earth then is something that can hold an idea of heaven. And so then it had to be another idea, but what holds it? Substance. Every seed has life and substance, and it gives that a way to become the plant, the tree, whatever it is. So I realized when I read that this was the way creation took place. So now I want you to turn to your books, and we're going to look at some illustrations. I will just describe them right now, and you have your books and you can turn to those illustrations. The first one is on page 12, and we see there just a big blank square, and we're going to use that as mind. It's like a slate that is not filled with anything, or maybe it is filled, who knows, but it is just blank in the book. And then the next word, of course, was God. And so then I just used a little point or a circle of light to represent God, because there's no way that we can picture God or understand God by seeing a picture or an image of God. And so on page 14, then I say, what is God? And so we decide that God is a creator, and it creates out of its own self. And I decided this has to be a unit of energy that is going to take some kind of form as energy. So we have now energy, and we picture it as a seed on page 15, and this energy is vibrating in this seed. Now we're going to turn to page 17, and here we see the picture of the original triangle. How can I say that that energy is vibrating. Here we have the idea of life. Here we have the idea of substance. And suddenly, instead of one, we have 2 and 3. So the one becomes 3. And in order to become 3, it splits. And therefore there is what in between? What is this in between here? You can't tell me what this is in here just by looking at it? What is it?
Idea?
No. What is this between here and here?
Space. Line?
Space. We got space. Before there was no space. It was all there. So space is created. And when space is created, there has to be what to get from one place to another?
Vibration.
At what?
Vibration.
Yeah, but what is causing the vibration?
Movement.
Movement. You have to have movement in order to have vibration.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have a separation of space between the two in order to have movement, which will be vibrating frequency. So now we have energy that is boundless as far as we know, but it has 2 aspects. One is opposite the other, and we're going to see how this happens, and it's going to be explained in Genesis. So we see then this figure of the triangle on page 17. Now then, the next phrase in the scripture goes like this: and the earth was without form and void. Now the earth, is this a globe in our solar system?
No.
No.
No. This is substance, right?
Yes. Yes.
So substance is without form. And it is void. And if you look up void in the dictionary, which I did, it says it is a vacuum. So this part over here is going to be like a vacuum, sucking in. And what is it that it's going to suck in? It's only one thing that it can suck in:
Idea?
the idea of life. So the idea of life is going to penetrate substance.
Mm.
Now then, we know that this substance is not going to stay there, because we know that there is a universe out here in our mind, that we live here in a 3-dimensional existence, and we know there's more to come. So the next line says, there was darkness upon the face of the deep. So the deep then is this substance, this vacuum. How deep is it going to be, folks?
Well, it is deep.
Speak up.
Very, very deep.
And this
How
7
deep?
levels. Is it 7 levels?
7 levels deep.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 levels.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called 7 what in the Bible scripture? 7
Days.
days.
Oh, 7 days. Yeah.
And esoterically we call it 7 rays. or 7 radiating ideas of vibrating frequency. Now, remember, this is an idea of life.
Yes.
Whatever that idea of life is going to be radiating. It's like a light. It radiates. Remember the old comics pages? And a guy in the comic would have an idea, and what did they show over his head?
Light bulb.
A light bulb, right. So the idea is light, right? So I want you to get in your mind right away that this is radiating light. Radiate light. Because all through the Bible, we are talking about light. All through the Bible, we are talking about you and me. And guess what we are?
Light.
We are
Radiating light.
light. Right. We don't look like it, do we? But we are. But a medical person would tell you that your body is full of light, that you actually are made up of light. Okay, so now this radiating light idea is going to be taken into this because it is magnetic. I'll just say a magnet. So substance is a magnet that sucks itself into itself the idea of life. Now you say, well, what does that have to do with me? Well, we're going to find out. The next line that is important here, it says on page 18, and darkness was on the face of this deep, which I said before, but this is the opposite of light. So now this is dark, this is light, this is an idea, and this is a substance that is going to give the idea form. It's going to be poured into this, and it is going to take shape according to the idea that is penetrating into this substance. All right. Now then, so we have the radiation and the magnetism. These are the two forces that science works with all the time, and they are in the first line of the Bible called heaven and earth. And this first line of the Bible is the Trinity. It is the one becoming three. Okay.